Whereabouts are you at the moment? You're home in Sydney? Sydney?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
hmm. You know what? I'm interviewing Flaming Wreckage. No, this won't do. Something's missing. Ah, I know what it is. Hang on. Let me vest up.
Sick.
Ah, it's much better. All right. Now we can do it. Shut up, phone. I'm talking to him. God, God. No, I'll tell you what. Hey, Terra Inferna. Dude, I just finished it.
Oh, sick.
It's an absolute monster, man. How long have you been working on it?
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, a little while. Like some of those riffs have been around for quite a while, but I pretty much like after Cathedral came out, we did like a quite an extensive Aussie tour, and yeah, I feel like I just remember Juzzy writing a few of those riffs when we were in Europe in like 2019. So it's the stuff that's been around for a long time, and it's just been a process of just honing it and just making it into like a complete album. And yeah, we were super stoked with the result, man. It's been a long time coming.
What looking over it, the various ways that you constructed it, what were some of the biggest challenges in making this, you reckon?
I think just like me in particular and the band more broadly, like we're real perfectionists with the way we approach writing. And just like getting over that hurdle to begin with was a challenge. But I think like this is the most collaborative album we've ever done. Like songwriting for us previously would kind of look more like a riff would come in and then the song would just kind of grow from there, like very much like based around a guitar driven idea. But this time around, we were open to pretty much anything coming in and driving the song forward. So there's some stuff on here that was sort of born out of like a more interesting drum fill or like just a rhythm that Matt might have heard or like a scale from a Japanese influenced band that Juzzy was listening to. Like there's so many influences that have come together. And I think at first it was just like figuring out the direction that we wanted to go in.
Hmm.
And then, kind of once you like land on that, then you have a driving force behind the project. So I think once we were there, then we were off to the races sort of thing. But it's just the initial part, like, like not getting overwhelmed by the bigness of trying to do another album, just like breaking it up into bits, just doing one song at a time, what's right for that song. And just like not rushing it as well is a massive thing for us. Um, so yeah, once we got all that shit together, then it was off to the races, man.
Yeah, it struck me like listening because obviously thrash has a lot of technicality and a lot of moving parts. And it was listening to this was one of those times when you appreciate or get an appreciation for just how much work goes into a single album. Like that's a lot of
Yeah,
work. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I think like the real work for us always gets done in pre-production. Like that's something we really value pretty highly. And like working with Chris Melko for the third time in a row now, we have an awesome working relationship and just awesome relationship outside of the band. Like he's a really good mate of ours. And we really wanted to make sure that the pre-pro was like where all the big decisions in terms of structure and things like that were kind of nutted out so that when it came to recording the actual album, we had a bit more space to experiment with different things. And like you said, like there is a lot of space on this album for stuff like that. Like we tried things that we've never done before. Um, and yeah, so we just like really spent the time getting all of that stuff ready to go so that when we hit the studio, that was the time to experiment. And man, that was super fun being able to do that because like things like synth and 12-string guitars is not something you would normally associate with our band, but like it's really like beefed it up and taken it to another level. And it's like down to all of the choices with like guitar tones and drums and stuff. We use a lot of like old stuff on this album. There's a lot of vintage gear. We kind of wanted to step outside of the mold of the modern metal band because I feel like it's a lot of metal releases that you just cop the the modern metal band plugin, and it's like easier to make that sound. But we went in a little bit of a different direction with the production, and I'm stoked that aligned with the songs, and it's really come together.
This is in no way a criticism of the bands themselves, but I remember noticing at the Knotfest previous to this one, um, it felt like half the bands on the bill had the same guitarist. Like
Yeah,
just that. Like, don't get me wrong. I literally have a Meshuggah back patch. I'm all about downtuning. I fucking love that shit.
yeah.
But holy shit, it literally sounded like every single band had the same guitarist. You know, these like, is that Spirit Box? Is that Void of Vision? Is that, I don't
Yeah.
fucking know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. And like that stuff has a time, like it has a place. But I think for what we're trying to do, we're just trying to give it a bit more character and like not just put it through that filter that like it kind of deprives you of like what your hands are giving you. Like so much of guitar tone to us has always been about the way we attack the strings. So if you're just going to use the same amp as everyone else, it's it's not quite what we're going for.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and I totally get what you mean. It can get a little bit cookie cutter at times, but there's a place for that stuff. But for us, yeah, we just like I like I work as a guitar tech as well. Like I do a lot of like shows as stage tech, so I'm like I love experimenting with different amps and stuff, and like having the opportunity to do that. Like that's one of my favorite parts of recording with Chris. Like we reamp everything, so he records to like it's just a digital patch that he has saved, which is often like quite similar to the tone that you had on the last record.
Mm.
And then you just have those tracks that you can just like patch into whatever amp you want. You can blend stuff, and it's like all tight, and just this wall of sound. But you can have a lot of fun with that stuff. And yeah, I'm like, we used a Mesa Mark IV on this record, which is like an amp that is quite unforgiving, and you need to really like work hard to find the sweet spot of it. It's not like in the past we've used like stuff like EVHs and things where it's just like, yeah, that's set it flat, that's good. It's going to sound pretty good.
Mm.
But I'm stoked that we put the time in to really make that amp work, because I feel like it really shines through with the songs that we put together.
It's interesting, and this is going to sound like I'm doubling back on because I really want to talk about this, but it's interesting what we were just talking about, guitar tones. Standing out on that bill like absolute dog's balls was Megadeth, who I had never actually seen before. And they came out on stage and after a day full of down-tuned guitars, they came out and busted into Hangar 18. My jaw was on the fucking floor.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like the great debate, right? Like what's better, like tubes or digital? And like I'm all for analog, but I absolutely see the appeal of a digital rig, especially given how expensive touring is at the moment. You get the consistency. There's so many now, like there's like Quad Cortex, which is like that big, and it's your whole rig. You can play a whole band into that thing if you want. But there's nothing like it, man. And you're right. Like when you're on a lineup where you can bet your bottom dollar that like probably 12 out of 15 bands, or probably more, are going to have Kempers or a digital guitar rig, and that's fine. Like I said, there's a place for that stuff. But when you do hear a band come out with blowing some air on stage with a Marshall on 10, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
But there's so many like factors at play there. It depends what kind of sound you're going for. Yeah, we try and go pretty analog where we can, but I'm not fully opposed to it. But it's just like our preference, I'd say. Yeah.
I'd been having a very just long and shitty day, and it got turned right around when I watched the video for Ghosts a few hours ago.
Cool.
It's fucking awesome. Who came up with the concept for that?
Yeah, so me and Reese, the director from High Voltage, is killer. He's done a bunch of like live sort of clips for us in the past, and really wanted to do a video with him. And we had a few really dumb ideas that were just never going to work. But like at its core, we just wanted to make something that was a bit more relatable. Like, I think, the trope of like metal bands standing on cliff faces and like with fire everywhere and all, it's just been done a million times. So we're like, how do we think outside the box a little bit here? And like, as a band that's done quite a lot of regional touring in Australia, I think all of our best stories are from rural towns. And we thought, like, if you've ever been in any band ever, you've always like guaranteed you played a gig to like one or two blokes who are just the worst punishers ever, but you can't tell them to fuck off because they're the only person at your gig and they're having a great time. Which is, I love doing that. Like, I love going out to those places and seeing like what those towns have to offer. They're so good. People come out because they don't get anything, but sometimes you just have an absolute stinker. And everyone's been through it if you play music for long enough. So we just sort of like put all of those stories together, and then we tried to get as many mates from our band, like bands that we play with all the time. And yeah, the stars just aligned, man. Like, everyone was available. We got Chapo to play this, like, just total punish, who just won't leave us alone. And like everything he says in the clip is like a direct quote from something that has happened to us, like, over the years from touring so much. And then Timmy from Astro Death is like the surly bartender. He just wants the whole thing to be over as well. So I remember, like, like we played a gig once in Geelong. I'll never forget it. We I think for some reason it was like a Sunday Arvo show, and there was no local bands at all on this bill. And we just like tried to pad out the weekend after some gigs in Melbourne or whatever. And yeah, I just remember getting there and like, oh, I reckon no one's coming, hey. But I was like, literally no one. It was like, I think there was one door sale. And I remember just playing to like a completely empty room. And then like the chef was on his break and he just walked in and just went, nah, and just left immediately. So like when Nano from Black Reno comes in, that's kind of like a play on that sort of thing. So yeah, we just like put all these things together that we've like, experienced over the years and just made like a really fun clip that's like, a bit more relatable than like standing on a cliff with wind blowing through our hair. And yeah, man, it was awesome. It was like a really freeing experience to do something like that, because we've done heaps of serious videos, and honestly, like, they're a lot more like work than it's worth in the end. Like, people's attention span is so short at the moment. Like, not to say that we haven't done stuff that I'm really stoked on in the past, but like this one is like totally watchable the whole way through, because it's like it just reels you in with this like relatable storyline, and it's like, yeah, I love doing it. It was such a good day.
Well, I'm testament to that, because that is, I reckon, the first music video I've actually had the patience to watch. I grew up living, taping Rage and stuff. I was all about music videos. I fucking loved them. And it occurred to me recently, holy shit, how long has it been since I've actually watched one of these things? Like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, like, it's not how it's like, it's not how the formula works anymore. Unfortunately, like, everything's 30 seconds is a long video, so you got to be quick. And that's just another challenge of being a band in 2024. You got to kind of adapt your skill sets a little bit and just see what's working out there for the consumers of your music. But yeah, I think like not from just a standpoint of like getting it out there. It was just a super fun thing to do, and that's always the number one thing for us, if they have a good time doing it. So yeah, man, killer.
So I noticed. What were your thoughts? So, were you a Slayer fan at all, being a thrash metal?
Yeah, I love Slayer. I'm like, I wasn't like cut Slayer into my arm, like, full like ultra passionate Slayer fan, but I have gotten into it. I was fortunate enough to do this Big Four tribute show, which was like towards the end of Frankie's in Sydney. They did a couple of them, and I played a couple of Slayer songs with some of the dudes from Harlot and Desecrator and stuff, and that was awesome. I found it actually really hard to learn a lot of the Slayer stuff, because it's so fast and they just like have never played to a click track, so it's just like like sloppy and aggressive, but like in the best way possible. It was a good challenge, man. But anyway, sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just wondering what your thoughts were on the reunion, because I did not see that one coming.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I just like, it'd be nice to just let something that's like that good just die. I feel like everything have a sequel. It doesn't though. Like, I don't know. I just like, I wasn't a massive fan of the last album. I mean, like it's just yeah. If my opinion is just that like Hanneman was the soul of that band, and he wrote all the best Slayer songs and the stories. So without him, it's just not the same for me, man.
It's crazy because the farewell show at Brisbane River Stage in 2019 is one of the best gig experiences of my life. It was
Yeah, I saw him at
phenomenal.
Download. It was
Mm.
awesome, man. Yeah,
And I was close enough to almost lose my eyebrows during Hell Awaits. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
shit you not, my wife is somewhere cringing because she can hear I'm about to tell the Slayer story. But I shit you not, River Stage, where I saw them, is an outdoor arena,
Yeah.
so completely open air. And I shit you not, boom, 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 they opened Raining Blood, and it started raining
Oh man,
like
that's
as if on cue. Like,
it's so crazy when like shit like that happens, man. I remember seeing Alice in Chains. I think it was the same year even at Download, and like they played Angry Share. This is like the most haunting riff, and like the sun was going down, and like this massive swarm of bats just flew over the stage. I was like, oh, what a vibe! It was so cool.
as someone who's played around a fair bit, which city in Australia do you think has the best metal scene and why? I would assume you would probably say Sydney, but I'm curious to hear your answer.
Well, it depends, man. Like I think for thrash, it's got to be Melbourne. Like Melbourne's always been a really great place to play, and like the strength of the music scene there is just massive, and it's like it probably is like the music capital of Australia. But it's and like yeah, it's always had a really strong thrash scene, and just metal generally. I think it's been really good there. Like I think it all goes through phases. Like I remember like when we first sort of started out, like there was only like kind of two or so places to really cut your teeth as a fresh young band in Sydney. Um, and I feel like around that time it was quite tough to cut through in any way. Like there didn't seem to be much of a community happening. Um, but yeah, like it moves in waves. Like where we're at now in Sydney is just insanely good. I think like and it spans across so many like subgenres of metal. It's like it's actually quite rare for us to play a show with it's three or four bands that are aligned to our sort of genre. Like we often play with like Astrodeath and Mountain was a Death Cold and Black Reno and and then like across the other sides of the country, like like Dr. Colossus and there's like we play with a lot of stoner bands. It just seems to like they're just our mates and everyone in that crowd's a metalhead. So we just figure like why not mix it up a bit. But yeah, man, like Brisbane's had its moments in like in the years gone by. They had a really good thrash scene for a while, but then it kind of moves towards death metal a little bit. Adelaide is another really strong one for metal, I reckon. Like I think Jason North is really doing great things down there with like well he did New Dead. I think that's done for now. But he's got Froth and Fury, great festival. So yeah, it just like really hinges on what bands are around and like what people are doing for the scene at the time. Sorry, that's a really convoluted answer, but like I think it just like it just goes up and down in waves. But Sydney's definitely in a strong position at the moment for sure.
Yeah, nice. All right, mate. Thank you very much for your time today, dude. Congratulations on the album. And yeah, man, I'll see you around the traps.
No worries, bro. Thanks for the interview. Cheers.